Hi, this is Jim Lee. I've had to split up the final segment of this piece. The files were too large. I've already inked all the line work, and now I am pouring ink directly on the page. I wouldn't really recommend this as a technique, but if you're going to do this, do it on a flat surface. I'm also using my 6-year-old's watercolor brush. I think it's made out of plastic. It's got a very short tip. But you got to learn how to use your tools. Um, I couldn't use this to put any fine detail, but it fills in blacks, very large areas, very nicely. And you can also use the very haggard tip to create some nice fur textures. Um, there's a whole science behind spotting blacks. You can spot blacks to help frame your composition. You can spot blacks to show shadow, create form, create depth. You can spot blacks to create separation between elements. Um, for instance, uh, in a black-white drawing, we don't have color, but you can use black to suggest color. You can also use blacks to create texture. Um, by applying big pools of black, you can make things look shiny. By using dry brush techniques like I'm doing here, where you load the brush with just a little bit of ink, you can create wood textures, fur textures, that kind of thing. Um, I actually am now taking ink from the other areas of the drawing to dry brush. In other words, if you look at the chin of the monkey, it's filled with a lot of black. It's pretty wet there, but I'll take the brush and dip it into that area and then use it to create sort of these gray tones on his upper lip and his forehead. Now I'm actually putting a little ink directly on the page just to really beef up the contours, create some depth, really make some of these shapes pop. And I'm not super careful about where it goes. I think half the fun of inking, especially over loose pencils, is sort of seeing where the drawing takes you. Um, there's a certain spontaneity in it that I enjoy. I hate inking tight pencils. I wouldn't call it tracing, but it feels like manual labor to me. This is more like painting. This is um, there's a lot more challenge in this, and it's a lot of fun to do every now and then. Um, Sometimes I'll actually ink with my fingers. Um, Usually when I ink a piece, I'll have all sorts of whiteout and indie ink dried all over my fingers. Um, Q-tips, Kleenex, sponges, um, but your basic tool should be a pen, a brush, ink, and a whiteout. Now I'm taking the pen and going back in and creating gradients, meaning I'm going from areas of black. Well, right now I'm filling in the gaps between the teeth, but pretty soon I'll be putting detail between from the areas that I've brushed in and the white areas, and so I'm creating both um, a gray tone, grayscale gradient, and also a texture gradient. In that I'm going from pure black areas that are heavily in shadow and pulling out of them, suggesting bits of fur, hair, wrinkles in the skin, and it creates form. It creates three-dimensionality. Um, it tricks the eye into thinking that there's a lot more there. In fact, if I went in and drew every hair on this monkey's head and every wrinkle, it would look nice, I guess, but it would look very flat. And I think I can get a more powerful image by um, laying down big chunks of black, contrasting against large chunks of white, and then using finer tools like this pen to draw from the black into the white to create both texture and visual interest. So I'm going in and adding some detail around the eyes, monkeys tend to be very wrinkled, so it's a lot of fun to go in and add that kind of detail. In fact, I'm probably spending way too much time on this monkey. I should really concentrate on Jenny. Adding a little more detail to the rubble. Putting little dits and dats, and I'm creating texture on the material, and also adding details on the cargo pants and the belt. Everything should feel like it could possibly exist in real life, and not look super generic. Here I'm drawing off camera. I'm tightening up the shadows underneath her neck. And adding blacks into the Union Jack. Again, this is an example of using blacks to suggest color. Obviously, the areas I'm filling in are blue. By adding these black values in there, getting separation from the white and red elements of the Union Jack, and then at the same time suggesting the blue color. And fine stuff like this I'll just fill in with the pen. If I had a nice number 2 brush, I could do the same thing with that. I'm not going to fill in the whole shirt with black because then it'll sort of disappear into the blacks I've laid in behind her on the monkey head. So I'm really dropping a core shadow down the center of the shirt, and to the left and right to the left and right of her torso, it's white, suggesting light reflecting off of her sides. And here we go, adding a little more detail. There's a lot I drew off panel to the right. I forgot to center the page under the camera. I apologize. But now I'm going and beefing up some of the lines on the rubble, and then I'm going to go around the contours of her pants and her body and drop in some just slightly thicker line weights, again to create separation from the background, and also creates again more three-dimensional form. And there's certain areas you want to definitely hit, which is underside there, and now I'm adding some cuts and wounds on her arm, suggesting she was in this fight. I mean, part of a drawing is that you're creating a story, even if it's a single illustration, and part of the story is created by the fact that she's got this pint of Guinness, that she's got a couple cuts on her shoulders, and there's this big monkey head that's smoking behind her.